Well, I would say there are many people who joined the UN before. They already made career in the UN,
Yeah.
and they become like older and they become like more mature.
Uh-huh.
So, and since UN is becoming like more and more prestigious, it's becoming more difficult for young people to join, because before many positions are already fulfilled. So
Uh-huh.
for young people, it's getting more competitive since there are many bright minds and competition is very high.
Well noted, Javid. Thank you so much for that. What else? What else do you have in mind as an image of the UN at 75? What have you heard about the UN in the first place? Don't be shy. You could be honest to me. I can take it. I've been here for 15 years. Anyone? Seville, please take on the microphone, please. Seville, just unmute yourself. You said it's too shy. Anyone else? Otherwise, I'm going to ask you, Budana, please.
Yeah, maybe the first thing that comes up into my mind is 17 goals for sustainable development.
Oh, wow.
This is because this is something that I'm a school teacher and I teach a project that teach a subject that called project management.
Mm-hmm.
And we are trying to create some projects with children that aim to make us closer to achieve some of these 17 goals.
Fantastic.
So this is what is the most interesting for me if we're speaking about United Nations.
Indeed, you're at 75, the UN is trying to put a goal.
Yeah.
17 goals. You call it in short?
Can you run it by me again?
You know, this very famous goal, the 17 goals. How do you call this now? Because it's becoming like, you know, a word of mouth with governments, with the private sector, with everybody. It's like, you know, it's almost like a song in your head, a music in your head. How do you call them in short? They're known as what?
Sustainable development goals.
Sustainable development goals. Yeah. That if you are going to apply today in the UN, you better know these goals, because today that's the language of the UN. I can tell you, if you're going to be interviewed today or tomorrow, you will be asked one of those questions. How are you going to ensure that sustainable development goals 6 or 7, you know that? I don't even know myself. Now, kidding aside, I'm still trying to scratch where we are. The thing is, you know, you have asked me to speak on something that is closest to my heart. I have prepared myself. But I don't
Mors, by the way, Mariam raised the hand. Mariam, if you have a question, please.
Please go ahead, yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt because some of the participants already mentioned their affiliations and what do they think of UN. But when I think of UN, I remember the whole world, because UN is represented in almost of all the countries all around the world. And I remember the structures and agencies of the UN which are working in all of these different countries, and also the responsibilities affiliated to the UN. Because when something happens somewhere, we always say like what UN does, and all the responsibility goes to the international organizations, which we are usually trusting and looking at to support.
Wonderful. Now, that was a very good entry point to the next, line I would like to get in. But before I do that, I would like to do a quick survey, because as I mentioned to you, I have some sort of an idea of what I'm going to tell you based on what our organizer asked me to do. But not until I get to know you a bit more, I wouldn't be able, I felt like, I'm in the dark. So I would like to get to know you a bit better, so then I can align, what I am supposed to share to you and what is your interest and expectation? So the first question I would like to ask you, and you can raise your hand. I don't know if you can do that. Is there a place to raise a hand or give me some reaction? How many of you are currently studying in the university or undergraduate? One. I'm talking undergraduate, not graduate school, undergraduate. Okay. Tap, tap, tap. Right. How about those in the graduate school doing their master's degrees? Can you also raise your hand? You can put a thumbs mark. I've heard that in Iran, this is a bad sign, by the way. If there's anybody from Iran here. Yeah. Is there anybody here who is already working or currently working? Okay. Now, you know, when I present, it is very difficult for me to, I always try to, to have a rapport with people that I'm talking with, because I'm gonna tell you my story. I'm gonna sharing my personal stories to you. I would like to put on your videos if possible, because that otherwise I felt, I don't feel well. So if you could put your videos, I would appreciate that. I would like to see your faces. Okay? Because it also gives me an opportunity to see who is in the room, because otherwise I feel like I'm talking in the dark. You're beautiful people. Don't be scared to show your face. Okay? Incredible. This is great. So now those of you who have been working, how many of you have about, let's say, 3 to 5 years professional experience? Those of you who had 3 to 5 years professional experience, can you please raise your hand or put on the icon raising your hand? We're just doing a survey, yeah? None? There's 1, 2, Shalala, Turkan, Anano.
So far, 3 people raise hand.
3, yes.
There's 5, as I know. Like
The 5.
Yeah.
Now, how many of you here speak 3 languages? Any languages, for that matter. 1,
wow, great.
4, 5, 6.
10.
This is very good.
11 now.
11.
Yeah.
Now, those of you who are able to speak 3 languages, can you share us a bit what languages are they? And I will tell you later on why I'm asking that. So we can start talking about getting a job in the UN. Anyone who would like to share?
I guess from the Azerbaijani population, it's mostly English, Russian, and Turkish.
English, Russian, and Turkish. Fantastic. You see, in the UN, do you know what are the official languages? English, of course, is one of them.
French.
French.
Arabic.
Arabic.
German?
No.
No? Oh.
Russian.
Spanish.
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 You're missing 2 of the most important.
Chinese.
Chinese.
Chinese
Indian.
and Russian.
Russian, English.
Russian.
Yes. Now, I'm just looking at you and assuming that you are now applying for a position in the UN to me. I received all your application, and based on the initial survey I have conducted, immediately I can tell you there will be like 5 or 6 people shortlisted, looking at the minimum requirements. Now, in the UN, there are minimum requirements, okay? when you apply for a post, there are minimum requirements, but it also depends on what types of position. So the first thing you have to understand when you are interested for a position in the UN is what? Why are you interested in the first place to work in the UN? And that's the reason why I ask you, what have you heard about the UN? Because people who works in the UN, they didn't came through a parachute, I can tell you. A job in the UN, one position. I was just looking at, I'm responsible for our internship program in my section, which is a very small section. I work for the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. And I am responsible for our section's in fellowship program, but also our internship program. And I just checked the application. You know how many we received today? 734 for 1 or 2 positions. Now, you know how many seconds I have to look at your CVs? 10 seconds. On the first slide, you don't even read it, you scan it. And when you scan, you know what you do? You look for the keywords. And if you are looking for the keywords, it means that you know what you're looking for. So in my case, I have keywords based, on the work of the section that I do and the work that we do in our branch, and more specifically, the thematic subject that we are working on. So keywords are important, okay? Now, in relation to minimum requirements, I have already opened up one of the minimum requirements to you, are languages. But in fact, the languages, in addition to being a minimum requirement, it would be one of the deciding factors for you. As I was saying, if you're going to apply for a job now, you see, almost all of you would tick the minimum requirements. You are currently doing your master's degree or about to finish your master's degree. You are possibly studying in the same university or doing the same program. The reason why I asked you how many of you have had 3 to 7, 5 years experience is because when you apply for a job, they would require you to get to this position. The minimum requirements is 5 years professional experience, 3 years. Now, what stands out, what's the most important point later on? I'll get back to you and the keywords, okay? Yeah, Turkan, can you remind me on the keywords later, because I am sure I'm gonna forget that if nobody will remind me. Okay, so the minimum requirements, let's say for internship, you need to be attached in a master's program. Take note of that. Okay, you need to be a student currently doing a master's, sometimes PhD even. It is almost impossible to get an internship in the UN when you're doing your undergrad, unless you're doing your doctor, medicine, for example. Because when you study medicine, in many parts of the world, you already have an undergrad prior to med school. Or when you're doing, your law degree, in many parts of the world, students, they cannot go directly to law degree. They have to have an undergrad to go to law school. So there are some, there are some exemption, but very, very minimum. Now, take note. You need to be attached in the university, or you have recently graduated. Now, it's best for you to apply when you are still attached to an institution. You know why? Can you guess why? Why it's always better for you to apply for jobs or position when you are still attached to an institution? Yes? Shabib?
I can try. The institution may recommend you.
Yes,
And again,
definitely.
yeah, and again, sometimes institutional emails have more potentials, have more weight.
Very good. Any other points?
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
So the experience of maybe the theoretical one, which we're taking from the universities, is very fresh, and we can take it into the practice while we are working. So when we're studying and we graduate from our master's program, we can like instantly put our theoretical or some kind of knowledge to practice. So this is very good, like to be in time.
Very well said. But in addition to that, when we look at your CV, we are not just looking at your name. We are looking at your affiliation. So let's say, you mentioned, you put your name, Bodana Serjukoba, and you are currently doing your master's. And in your master's program, you mentioned that you are attached to Lund Institute for Human Rights. Okay? Now, that alone would speak volume about you. Instead of just putting you're doing your master's and nothing else. This is one of the, when you write your CV, and this is one of the first recommendation one of the tips I give you. When you provide information on your CV, put a bit of a context of that information. So let's say, for example, you're doing your academic background, all right? Instead of saying that you are doing your master's degree at Lund University or Malmö University, it would be even better to say that you're doing your master's degree at the Graduate Institute of International Law and Human Rights. Because then immediately we have a better overview of, okay, so he is in this community of human rights practitioners or lawyers. And immediately, and then you know what we do? Besides looking or searching about you personally, then we go and look at your institutional affiliation. And that is important to us. Why? Because then we look at who are the people in this institution. And that's where it's important for you to be a part of a network. You better be a part of a network. It's almost impossible now for you to speak on your own in this world of interconnectedness, okay? And that is why I'm really happy that, that you have organization, students organization, like the organization, that is putting this meeting together, that provides you as well, an affiliation, even though it's just a student organization. It still is a lot better than just you applying as an individual, okay? So that's the first one. Now, the second one, I was telling you about the minimum requirements. One is academic, one is professional. And then third, when you look at the nitty-gritty part, of those minimum requirements, this is where your hard skill and soft skills come in. And the languages in the UN is one of the most highly valued skill. In many cases, when I recruit interns, I don't recruit interns anymore when they only speak English. I can tell you that. Why? And in the UN, one of our principal value, one of a part of our DNA is to respect diversity and inclusion, all right? And one of the ways for us to be inclusive is to ensure that the people that works in the organization are as diverse, not just on languages, could be an ethnicity, on religion, on gender and sexuality, name it. We have about 47,000 UN staff at the moment. In my office, from the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, we are about 1,200, if I'm not mistaken, at the moment. And we are coming from 120 plus countries. It's almost impossible for you if you work in the UN, it's almost impossible to end up working in the same section coming from the same country. I mean, there are some, but it's almost, it's very, very rare. But that's one of the added value, I guess, of working in the UN, in an institution that is very diverse. You get to know, you get to have the opportunity to work with people coming from different backgrounds. Now, maybe you would like to ask me, how did I end up in the UN in the first place?
So how did you end up in UA?
That's my answer to you. These are all my passports. I have 12.
Wow.
Okay. I have 6 passports from the Philippines. I am originally from the Philippines. These are my 4 UN passports. If you haven't seen one, this is how it looks like. Your goal is to get one of these in the future. But before you get this, or at least in my case, before I end up having this, I have all this. Now, I started in the Philippines, my career, my studies. I was high school when I knew I'm going to work for the UN. I didn't apply for any other job. My first job is with the UN. I was 24. Now, it must be in 1994 when I first had an opportunity to have a television. The place where I come from, we didn't have electricity. I didn't go to the capital of my country until I went to university. I was the second one in my community to go to university. I come from a minority community. In the community where I come from, from grade 1, 2, and 3, we only have one teacher. My brother, who is older than me, is 2 years older. So he was in grade 3, I was in grade 1. We have one teacher. We have one book in English. And we have to share that book. And it moved 1 week from the other to one student. You'll never see that book again afterwards. I come from a community where when we have a natural disaster, name it. In the Philippines, we have typhoons. We have 22 typhoons on an annual basis. We have 26 major earthquakes on an annual basis. In between, we have volcano eruption. But still, I went to school. Now, when there's a typhoon, there's no more class. I remember in elementary school, the roof of our school are made of coconut leaf. When it rains, the board is wet. You can't write on a wet board anymore. There's no more class. We didn't have teacher from the community. It's always somebody from the outside. But it was my upbringing that really pushes me to go beyond that. And it was not by accident that I ended up working for human rights or international development. And moving forward, when I was doing my university, I realized that this issue wasn't unique to where I come from. I realized that it's an issue that we face in many parts of the country. And this is how I end up working for minority rights, because I come from a minority community up north in the Philippines. You know, in the Philippines, you speak 178 languages. You are 7,000 islands. In my province, you move, let's say, maybe 2 kilometers away, they speak a different language. In the South, I wouldn't be able to understand the language they speak there. Now, but those are the things that inspired me to where I am now. And that was also the reason why, from the beginning, I knew that if I'm going to work on something, I would like to work on something that is bigger than myself. And I thought working for human being in the first place, working for humanity on the second place, is the way I would like to move forward. I didn't know about human rights, not until I went to university. But it was in the university as well where I realized that education is a right, and it's not a privilege. But that was also the time when I realized that rights are such, if you don't claim it, they're not going to give it to you. If you don't claim it, somebody will claim it for you. And if you don't protect it, somebody will take advantage from you. Now, you're very privileged to have the opportunity to be in the university and doing the things that you love, learning. Take note, when you build a career, you have to situate yourself moving beyond who you are. And for me then, the first thing I've asked is, if I'm going to build a career that would make me happy and the people around me, what would that be? Working for Philip Morris? No. Working for Apple? I'm not sure. Then I realized, and this is what my grandfather told me when I was very young, Morris, in this world, there are 3 most important things in the world. 1 is people. 2, people. 3, people. By then I knew what I'm gonna, by then I knew what I'm gonna do. I'm going to work for people and not for money. Of course, it's a lot easier than done, but that's the first thing that you have to put within you when you build a career. I don't want to give you false hope. Working for the UN is incredible, but it has its limits. It has its own, idiosyncrasies. But if you know what you want, if you know what makes you happy, if you know what makes you crazy when you see things that's not working, that's where you have to go. For me, I can't stand, for example, when I see things that is not working, being discriminated, or people discriminating others, or when I see other people suffering. How can you go to sleep? Or what makes you wake up in the morning and tell yourself, I need to go to school because I need to finish this thesis now because I really want to work on this. For me, it was human rights. It's about protecting, the human being and the people around it, individually and collectively. By doing that, I might not be working in my community, but I knew that I will be contributing, not just in my community, but for others. And so when I was doing, and that's the first thing I did, when I was trying to find a job in the UN, I did a mapping, and this is what you need to do as well. If you are really seriously considering a job, a career in the UN, the first thing you need to do is you need to do a mapping of the UN system, because it's a whole gamut of organization. There are about over 30 international organizations within it, in addition to the secretariat. You need to know where you are going. So for me then, I would like to work on human rights. That's the big, picture. But I also wanted to specialize on a more focus or thematic that is closest to my heart. That is minority rights and indigenous people's rights. Now, the first lesson you would learn later on is in the UN, you're not going to get a job by being a generalist. You need to have a specialization. And that's the first thing I would like to ask you to do. You need to specialize on something. So if you are doing now a master's in human rights, and I would like to ask Telman, what are you doing now in your studies?
I am right now studying at Lund University in Sweden, pursuing the master's degree in international development and management.
Fantastic. Now, if I'm going to ask you, what would you like to specialize within that international development sector?
Yeah, I think I have already chosen. I'm thinking as a general, like the topic would be urban development, urbanization trends, and the specialization would then be human settlements, the inequalities in the city, in an urban city area.
And I'm glad that you are here, because now the next question I have to ask you is, do you know which UN agency that is closest to your interests?
Yeah, UN Habitat.
UN Habitat. And do you know where is it based?
It's based, the headquarters is, as far as I know, in Kenya, Nairobi.
Nairobi, yep. There you go. This is the first thing that you need, that you need to know. You need to find out which UN agency you can align yourself. So for example, so those of you, for example, who are very keen to work on international development, international law, human rights, international security, even before you start doing that, there are 3 pillars of the UN. Maybe you have to start from there. Can you remind us which are the key pillars in the UN? One is, Telman, you have one of them.
I didn't get the question, sorry.
The UN, it has 3 main pillars. Well, we also call it main 3 objectives. And you need to have at least, a background of this if you want to get a footing in the UN. So one of them is promotion of international cooperation and development. So those of you who are already studying international cooperation and development, you are way, way ahead more than anybody else. Why? Because one of the pillars of the UN is already in your CV. You understand that? What's the second one?
As far as I know, these are human rights, peace and security, and development.
Yeah, there you go. So the other pillar is protection of human rights. So those of you who are doing a master's in human rights, in international law, you are way ahead than anybody else already. And the other one is promotion of international security and peace. But as I have mentioned, it's still those 3 pillars, you have to unpack them. It's almost like a letter T. Try to imagine a letter T, a big letter T. One is on the top, the head. This is your international law and human rights. Now, if you want to specialize on something, you go down deeper. Rights of the child, maybe. Who among you is doing a master's in international human rights law or human rights in this group? Anyone? Nobody is doing a master's. Meriban, tell us.
Hello.
Yes. Come in.
I have recently graduated from human rights from the University of Padova.
Okay. And have you thought about specializing into something, going beyond the general human rights framework?
I'm interested in refugee and migration issues, and I did internship in International Organization for Migration.
Fantastic.
And in the future, I would like to work for UNHCR.
Awesome. Now, this is my second tip to you. Besides specializing on something, two things that you need to take note when you specialize. One is thematic. The other one is geographic. And I will tell you why it's important for you to do that. Thematic is where you will have to show your competency on a specific thematic subject. So in my case, for example, human rights, I specialize in minority rights and indigenous people's rights. Now, in the UN, when there are positions, and you can have a look at them, they don't advertise a position. Like, for example, even in our office, for example, when there is a vacancy, I would say 90% of the vacancies are they're looking for human rights officers. This is the general position. But when you go deeper, unpack that position, then they would start telling a bit more. This position as a human rights officer will be responsible in looking at, for example, now, the work of the Committee on the Rights of the Child, or the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, or the Committee on Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. This is where your thematic expertise will play. Now, if you don't have that thematic expertise, you're out of the game immediately. Because somebody have asked me before, so what are the keywords? The keywords depends on the position that you're applying, okay? So you need to specialize on something. One is thematic. So those of you who are in human rights, you can specialize on a whole range of civil and political rights, freedom of religion, freedom of expression, name it, election and all that. To the other side, economic, social, and cultural rights. Right to development, right to education, right to housing, name it. Labor rights, name it. Now, in addition to that, you will also see that every single UN vacancy, there is a duty station. Where is this post going to be posted? Now, this is where you need to know, once you map out the organizations where you want to go, like, for example, you realize that, oh my goodness, I am really passionate about culture, education, and you discover that, oh my goodness, this is the mandate of UNESCO. And then you find out, oh, holy crap, UNESCO's in Paris, I don't speak any French. You see where the language will play? Because suddenly, even if you are the most expert on education, and you find yourself competing with somebody who speaks French, I can tell you, it would be a tough competition for you. Not only that, and this is where your geographical expertise will come in. Since the position is in Paris, and let's say I'm coming from the Philippines. Now, they would be looking at somebody who is an expert in right to education, for example, as somebody that has been exposed to policies and regulations of the EU on education. Now, my experience is in the Philippines or Asia. I won't be able to compete with somebody that have been working as a teacher or a curriculum specialist from Europe. That's where you get the job, when you specialize one on thematic and one on geographic. So of course, for you, normally, especially for us, who are coming from countries and living in a country where we are now, and we're not citizen of that country. Naturally, we would claim that my geographical expertise is Azerbaijan or the Caucasus region or Central Asia for that matter. It's your natural affiliation and you should. But make sure that when you claim that you can justify it. Okay? And how do you back that up? That's the most important. How do you back your claim that you have an expertise on Asia Pacific or Central Asia? How do you show that? Can someone share here? Is there anybody here who has some sort of a geographical exposure expertise already that you can, you can put on your CV? Anyone?
I'm
Yes,
sorry
please.
for interrupting you. I'm not answering your question now. Just I want to let you know that we don't have too much time. If you could just, we could just move slowly to the QA part.
Sure.
Just in 3-4 minutes, if you can, for sure. Because
Okay.
I also got some questions now, and there are like people who ask about mostly internship opportunities and etc. currently are in the United States.
Fantastic. Let's
So
do
if
that.
someone has any question, you can ask, or I can take some questions from the application that we already got.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, we can do that now.
So then I can start with a question. First, we have a question from Aishan Gurbanalieva. As I know, Aishan is also already here, but I will tell her question. So she asks, is it preferable to do an internship in your home country, local community, or it's always better to start abroad and see different approaches?
Two things that I would like to share here. If you're coming from a developing country, try to move in the developed country. Why? That's where you are exposed to both worlds, and you need to have that. And it's always better for you. It enriches your experience, it enriches the worldview that you have in your interview that would make you stand out. And of course, it's also good on your CV. Now, it also comes with, with resources. On the other hand, it's also good to have a solid experience or exposure at the grassroots level. Now, what I have seen in the office, for example, at the headquarters, we give a lot of value, or we recognize our colleagues who have worked in the field, especially in human rights, because human rights violation takes place in the field. I mean, it happens everywhere, but the most concerning are those at the country level or the grassroots level. So those of you who are interested to work at the headquarters in the future, don't hesitate to build your career with civil society organization, with NGOs, either at the country level or at the regional level. In fact, many of our colleagues as a human rights officer, they have worked with civil society organization, including working for the government. You have to take note, the UN is an intergovernmental organization. Your experience working for the UN will be recognized or validated same year as working for the UN. If you have worked for your government for 15 years, it will be recognized as such in the UN, a solid 15 years. It's not the same with working for civil society organization. Okay.
Thank you, Morse. I think we have also raised hands. So firstly, Telman did that. So Telman, you can ask your question.
Thank you, first of all, for the presentation. I have two specific questions, if I may. The first question is about the application. You said that if you have a huge amount of applications, you have a limited amount of time to look at them. Is there maybe a thing that you prefer to look at, the cover letter or the CV? Like, which one is more important to you?
Sometimes in the UN system, we actually we have already what we call, I forgot the term. It's a questionnaire that you were asked to fill up even before you put your application. I forgot the term. Yeah. There would be like 3-4 questions. And immediately when you answered no to one of those questions, you're out of the game.
Yeah.
So take note of this. Like, for example, do you speak English, friends? And you said no, and you have all the rest yes, you're out of the game. So, and I will give you some tips on how to evade this later on. For example, in terms of looking at the CV, what you need to do is, when you look at the job, the call for application in your CV, make sure that some of the keywords on the job application and the job, the call for application are in your CV. So for example, if the call is, this is a position for a gender specialist, and then it includes the following: training and capacity building, resource mobilization, policy making and all that. Make sure that some of those keywords are reflected in your CV. But make sure that when you reflect on your CV, that they're also true to you, okay? Because some people, they thought that they can, they can go around tweaking. Well, yes, you can tweak, but make sure that you're not gonna lie, okay?
Okay, thank you. And the second question would be about, like, it's a very specific question, but if, for example, we got the chance to get interviewed and the interview is competency-based interview.
Yeah.
What do you actually expect from us during this competency-based interview?
Yeah. So the competency-based interview is basically a process where when we ask you a question, it's always an open-ended, is that the right word?
Yeah,
open-ended question. Like, for example, so Telman, tell me, when you were in the university for 4 years, what were you doing in the university? Go ahead.
During the, everything, like almost everything.
Almost everything.
Yeah.
And you say everything, can you specify some of those things?
Doing an internship, being social, having friends.
And in your internship, can you please tell us what type of activities you were engaged in your internship?
Organizational, and then also correlated with my studies as well, public affairs, and so on.
You mentioned about organizing, I'm assuming activities, projects, and all that. Can you tell us one instances where you had the opportunity to engage with different stakeholders?
Yeah, and now I understand. Now you have to get the information out of my experience, how I was exposed to that. Okay.
So what happens, it's a series of questions, okay? And the default when they ask you interviews, they will try to find a gap in your answer and they will pin you down from there, okay? This is a default in HR or in any interview. It's the same in your CV. When people look at your CV, they're not looking at what's in there, the most fantastic. The first default they look is, where's the gap in the CV? Okay? And that's the first thing you have to evade. Now, in addition to that, just on the competency-based interview, because this is the most important part when you do the interview. It's important for you to understand that it's based on what you have produced. So you have to give details, you have to give numbers, you have to give data. So instead of saying, I have worked, I'm a human rights expert. I was working for the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. No, don't do that. What you need to do, because what people remember is our number. I've been working for OHHR for 15 years, out of which 5 is in the Indigenous Peoples and Minority section. 6 years coordinating this and that. 4 years, this and that. And last year, I carried out this very important process. So you have to put numbers, you have to put figures, you have to articulate, back up your claims with solid evidence. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Morse. We have 2 more questions, and then we will most probably end with QA part session. So Mariam, you can go on, but Morse, just please be in short time as possible. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to ask the question. So my question is about internships, of course. You mentioned in the presentation, when you're looking at the CVs, you also look at the institutions that some of the students are representing. Does the UN provide with any special programs which are not open calls for everyone for the internships, maybe with the collaboration of some of the, let's say, the top universities or some of the organizations that
are providing with the well-experienced staff or students. Maybe there are some closed calls.
Right. So in addition to internship, we also have fellowship program, and Gosde is one of those who have come to the UN as a fellow. We have fellowship program for indigenous peoples, for minorities, for trans people, for in the office those who have been victim of modern day slavery, modern forms of slavery. And then we also have fellowship program for those who have been working with National Human Rights Institution or Regional Human Rights Institution. So if you've been working with National Commission for Human Rights or Ombudsman's Office and all that, there are opportunities. Now, in addition to these, you should also look at UNV, United Nations Volunteers, because sometimes UNVs, the requirements they ask, it depends on the position, they're applying. There are UNVs at the national level, and there are international UNV positions. And the national UNVs, there are UNV for young people. So you have to look at the requirements for age. And normally, in terms of experience, as long as you have the minimum requirements, you are only competing with the people from your own country. But the UNV, it's international. The other possible option that you can also look at is, there are study program that the UN organizes. There's a study program in Geneva, the UN office in Geneva. I think I can't remember how many, for a month, wherein, it's almost like it's almost like an academic program, because it's a study program, but it's also much more practical. You come and observe how the UN functions. You got to test the water, basically. You have the opportunity to speak with experts, with people who are working in different sectors. You get to know how the system works. And by doing that, I mean, when you have your interview, you can already articulate, I've been in Geneva, I've seen the Human Rights Council, I've seen the session, I was there, I was talking to this expert, I was fascinated with the work that they do on development, on trade, and all that. So take note of those. Now, in addition to that, don't hesitate, when you are building your career, you're almost like building your own portfolio. You need to build your own personal brand, basically. There are people who are very good at this, and you better be doing that too. Meaning that when you want, and this is where you specialize into something as well. Make sure that if you want to specialize in human rights, your academic background should be, also more or less on that direction. Plus, you have to align your conferences, the things that you have published, the associations that you belong, the network that you belong should be on that front as well. Most importantly, you need to have a mentor from that sector too, to bring a part of the institutional, not just the memory, but that they already give you a guide of how it looks like to be, at UN Habitat. It could be a professor, it could be an outsider as well. So try to find out good network. Put your presence online. That's very important. If you haven't had a LinkedIn up to now, better have one, because the first thing we do when you apply is we search you online. You need to have a footprint online. Now, be very careful with this. Clean up your social media, and it's not a joke. We will look into that as well. Okay.
What does clean up mean?
Clean up mean, okay. Now, you're applying for a job in OHHR, and you're applying for a job for a very specific thematic subject, and then suddenly, you are there, putting a very big placard saying that, that down to international law or something like this. That could contradict what you're claiming, And some people are really like that. They claim who they are, but they have a different, life on the other side of the world. So you have to make sure that you're consistent. That's the most important, offline and online. But really, I can't tell you enough how important your presence online. If you have good publications, make a blog. That's incredible. Put yourself online.
Thank you, Morse. We have just a quick question here about Angelina asks whether having a PhD increases substantially the chances of employment within the United Nations, and if possible, so shortly because we're running out of time.
Yes, yes and no. That's my question. That's my that's my response to you. Because your PhD could work against you. It could also work for you. Now, one of the issues with PhD is it's great to have a PhD if it combines with, if you already have the professional experience backing you up. The most difficult is if you only have a PhD and you never had work. That's very dangerous. Then they would put you in a box. You are in the academe. Okay? That's my short response to you. But the second one, just to add on this, because you know, it's good to have a PhD. You need to have a fallback. It's always good to have a second protocol. Okay?
Thank you, Morse,
Thank
for
you.
such a motivational at first stage speech. And then, like, it was so informative for us, for all of us. Gözde, would you like to say something, or?
Just briefly, thank you so much, Morse, to be with us today. It's really helpful information, and I'm sure that all informations will help you for future applications. Good luck for that.
Yeah, I'm going to give you my email. Just
yes, please.
then you
yes,
can.
Please. Thank you so much.
If you have further question, I can also, if you have question, you can share your CV to me. I always do that. I provide comments on CVs. I've done that with Gözde as well. So please don't hesitate. You can also find me on LinkedIn. Link in with me immediately, and then if you have question, get back to me. Okay?
Yeah. And
I
now
wish you luck.
Yeah.
I don't believe in that. I wish you hard work. That's the only way to go. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Now
Thank you so much, Morse.
Second session, Morse. If you would like, you can stay also, but as you wish.
Thanks very much.
Yeah. We will move. Just first, I would like also to introduce myself. I'm the chairperson of the Sweden Alumni Network, Azerbaijan. So as you all may probably know, we will now focus on Azerbaijani students who want to have any internship opportunities in Azerbaijan, or maybe international students who are interested in Caucasia or in Azerbaijan directly. So maybe you also have different questions. You can ask Leyla Gurbanova, our next speaker. She will provide you with all the information that you are interested in. Leyla.
So, hello everyone. I need to check that if my voice is coming out of there. Is it hearable? Can you hear?
Yep.
Okay. So, hello everyone. I'm gonna give a little presentation of the getting your foot in the door of the UN. It will be a bit of technical because like 5 or 6 years before, I was also looking for the opportunities, but very like shortcut ways of how we can get in the door of the UN. So if okay, I'll share the screen.
Yeah, but I've already made you the host. You can do now. Yep.
I think it will work out. Can you see it?
Not the presentation now, but just the folder. Yep.
So can you see it?
Not yet, just the folder still. Maybe you can zoom out it or anything else.
No, I think the problem is you can fix it by closing the presentation mode again and then clicking on it again. And
indeed it is closed, but
no, from the Zoom screening. Stop screening.
Let's share it again.
Yeah, could you please?
Can you see it?
Stop sharing right now. No.
No, I think the problem is that only one screen is shared. That's the problem.
If you put like simultaneous mode and multi-sharing, it will work out.
No, it doesn't work.
Can you see now?
No.
I think you need to share the appropriate screen for the PowerPoint presentation and not the screen that you're sharing right now. So you need to go back and stop sharing and then share again and select the United Nations PowerPoint presentation.
The thing is that, let me just try it again. It is in the same panel because I'm pausing and sharing back again. Let me just try another way. No?
Are you able to see the PowerPoint presentation?
No.
Oh, I meant Leila, do you see your own presentation on the screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
It's showing like it's shared.
Yeah, it's probably because you need to share, you go back to share screen and there you'll see these different windows and then there's like, you need to select the one that is sharing the PowerPoint presentation specifically.
I think because I am daily sharing this, I think this is something wrong with the technicalities. I've already shared the presentation with the host, so if it is okay, he can share from his own screen. Because like an hour ago, I just shared and it is okay. Because it shows like I'm currently sharing and you're saying, but I don't know what you're saying.
Could you send this presentation?
Yeah, I've sent this.
I'm sorry, I cannot see where you did that.
The Facebook account.
You can maybe just drop it in the chat and we will all open it.
Sorry, Leila, can you send it again? Because I cannot see it in my messenger.
Okay. So I shared back again. So I've shared again. Have you received?
Just a second. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So sorry for the technicalities. It will be a bit weird.
I think it's okay. Just we can start, but let me know when to make the next slide.
if you just put on the, view mode, we can start finally.
Just a second.
Okay, let's begin. The next slide. So my first advice would be to have a research with yourself and reflect back. So have a conversation like, what areas are you good at? What is your passion about? And where you would like to begin with? Because I want to be very concise and short today, like how to get really, really on the door of the UN, not like very, very broad, but you can pick some tips and tricks on there. So UN is really big organization. It's like an ocean, I would say. So it will be days of that we can talk about this. And the second point would be like, what is your current life position, your family responsibilities and circumstances, and what country are you living in, and all the political circumstances and everything you can consider. And then you can come through the opportunities. The next one, I think it will bother everyone, the next one slide, the word. So we can begin about sharing opportunities. Next one. So, well, I've tried to categorize different possibilities on how you can get a job in the UN. So this is the section of just try section that you don't know, you're not sure about if the UN is kind of environment for yourself, or it can be very overwhelming, or something that not expecting total different thing. So I would say that firstly considering an internship within a UN agency. I personally know 2 persons who've been interns in UN Azerbaijan and different agencies, and currently now working for the different agencies. One of them is working for FAO, one of them is working with the UNDP. Even you can have a chat with them. So it is quite real. And I can say that I had the privilege of working with like 5, 6 interns, and some of them are already getting hired by the organization. So they are beginning with the 6 months of the period of time, and I can say that they are really a part of the staff, and they are really, really working hard, and there is no kind of difference between the staff and an intern. So this is 100% opportunity for you to begin with. And the second option would be UNV. UNV is a bit, and yes, I've received one of the interns is just, I think, put on the box, right? I've just received a message, one of the interns that has been an intern in the UN and just chatted me now that I was also listening. So the second option will be the UNV. UNV, sometimes people understanding like the UNV as an intern, or people are just volunteering, not they're receiving salaries, official salaries and allowances. So this is also an opportunity you can try with. And UNV has its own specifications. You can be UN volunteer expert or a specialist, depending on your experience and CV. And it has the offline and online version. You can easily go to the unv.org and provide your support and get a certificate, put on your CV. It will be very useful for the next job opportunities with the UN. And also it has their own vacancies. The last vacancies was about the communications, or even different very, very numerous sites. And I personally know 2 persons from there as well, who has been a UNV in Azerbaijan. One is working for the WHO now, one is working for the UNDP. So the third one is kind of a bit tricky, because if you just go online and research about this, it is not much coming out through the search. So I wanted to share this one with you as well. So we have the SDGs Ambassador Program for the Sustainable Development Goals. So each young person is representing one SDGs, and they have very official meetings and kind of their modalities to work as ambassador and helping to promote the SDGs in the country. And I know that some of the persons from there are also hired by the organization. So it is could be a very good possibility that you can show yourself there and the people can get to know you. And when you're applying, you can put on your CV and it can be counted as a good account. And we have the UN Youth Advisory Council. And one of the persons from this council is also now hired. It's been like 3 years already that she's also working for the UN. But the UN Youth Advisory Council, if I remember correctly, they were doing volunteering and they are representing the youth voices in the initiatives of the UN and how the UN should formulate their activities in the country. So if you have any questions meantime, please just straight away ask if you don't know what is the meaning and anything. And moving ahead, I don't want to categorize it for the local students and also foreign students, because everyone can apply to this program, even if you're Azerbaijani or not. It is called Junior Professional Officer Program, but you have to be under 32 years old. And it is kind of an opportunity to give, hands-on experience to people who are really eager to work for the UN, mainly sponsored by the governments. And in the government websites, it should be advertised. And every year, the list is changing. For example, I saw that Sweden and Switzerland can apply from the countries, and they are in the roster currently. And very different disciplines are in the GPA program, and every year it is changing. And you are going to have a 1-year fixed contract, and then it's about subject to extension depending on the donor sources and etc. So you can find about it if you just look up the words. Another one is kind of a more competitive. You also have to be under 32 years old. It's called Young Professionals Program. And it is kind of a same, but the procedures are a bit different. Your nationality, it's the most important thing, that you have to be a national of a participating country. Because while I was studying in the UK, I wanted to apply to the Young Professionals Program. And they put me liaison on with Azerbaijan that I have to come back here and should apply from Azerbaijan to the UK to work for the UN. So it was a bit complicated. We found out that you have to be national of a participating country, and the program has a very updated list every year. So you have to check out the website that if Azerbaijan is on the list of this program. As far as I know, for the 2020 September, Azerbaijan was not listed, but it does not mean that it's not going to be again. So another one, of course, there is no limit. They always say that, if you go to the UN Careers website, there is always certain categories that you can apply for. But I think, and I believe that there are so many different alternatives, so many hidden opportunities that you can go forward. I think there is no limit. And then option C, it is not. If it is too complicated, if I'm going too fast, please, raise your hands. I can't see you much. I think
it's where. So.
Okay, let me just know about the speed. Well, option C is a bit different, and it is my personal feedback and impressions that there is a hidden opportunity in this versions as well. Consultancy services. You can be a consultant for all of the agencies. It can be 3 days. It can be 1 day. It can be 20 days or a month. It can be a year or 2 years or 5 times in 10 years. It is quite different. For example, you are a scholar in agriculture, and Azerbaijan is doing some projects in agriculture, and they are looking for a scholar in wheat production or extension or application. It is very narrow, very specific fields that they are looking for. I can say that it is very, very rewarding and quite expensive services. You can see the list of the service providers. I mean, there are some even very globally known consultants that they are receiving daily allowances, and it can be equal to your monthly. I mean, it is like 10, 20 times expensive. I'm saying this straightforwardly and openly that it is quite rewarding. So you can consider consultancy services. And the tenders. Tenders is a bit different because they can be conflict of interest if you are participating in the tender and after 3 or 4 years coming to the UN, it can be an opportunity and also not. It's a bit sensitive thing, tenders, but I consider this a great opportunity for your own companies. If you have some civil society organization, it could be a good start in your CV because UN is working with different companies. If you're a consulting company, if you're working in education, printing, advertising, and many more, and you can be collaborative side. It's like not working in the UN, but working for the UN. So it's also an option. And the rosters. Currently, we have the different rosters, and we have videographers, photographers, translators who are not like working in the UN, but they are, again, working for the UN agencies. They have their own jobs, daily jobs, and they're receiving kind of salaries and, you know, fixed amount of allowances or money, we would say, in terms of their services provided. So it is quite very wide rosters in lots of different categories. For example, you're a photographer, you're a videographer, or you're a communication specialist, you're editor, or working in an advertising company. Anything could be. You can be in the roster of the United Nations and work for the different agencies, not in your own country, but, you know, for many countries as a member state of the UN. So you can consider this one as well. This is also quite rewarding. You can just, you know, sharing your service 2 hours a day. I'm coming as a photographer 2 hours a day, and I'm receiving my money. So it is quite easy and quite rewarding. Other one. So getting more serious. It is about the coming to the Careers UN website. So if you really, really want to work for the UN, you have to, you know, spend your days in and out in this website because they give lots of information, all of the details, different categories, how you can get into the UN. But in the country, in Azerbaijan, your beacon, your light will be the azerbaijan.un.org website. So currently we have an opportunity in the Department of Global Communications, open internship opportunity. It is live. The previous one, please. Yes, you can apply here. So we have 2 batches. It is open currently, and for the public information works. So one of the opportunities. The next one. So I know that sometimes it's overwhelming and you can understand nothing because I've been also there. But I think that if you choose the UN as your workplace, you can find a way. So I want to be a bit focused on Azerbaijan. So the UN is currently implementing, I would say, over 300 activities in the Azerbaijan, not only in the capital, but in different locations. And we have 9 resident organizations in the country, which has their own office and their own staff in the country, just enumerated below, FAO, from FAO to UNICEF, WHO, UNDP, and others ones. And it is not limited to only Baku. If you're living in Shaki, Zaqatala, or anywhere, you can also be a part of the UN. So it is always associated with being a citizen or being a resident in the Baku and in the capital, but there are also different opportunities in the regions as well. So I would like to go through each of the agencies' recruitment systems with you lively now. And if you have any questions, we can go through it together. Because honestly, I'm receiving too many questions on a daily basis about the recruitment systems, about the documents, how can I apply, and I would just want to customize my presentation according to the recruitment systems and the possible ways how to begin. So the first one is FAO. FAO's recruitment system is called Taleo. It's quite different. So currently, if you just go back, Yes. If you just go to the website of FAO Jobs, you can see the platform, and it gives everything. UN vacancies, interview tips, and the tweets is always on the page, so you can follow the social media. It is like a screenshot of 2 days before. You can easily come through the opportunities, not only in Azerbaijan, but also in different countries. The next one. So ILO, the same one. Each of them has its own website and own recruitment systems, and I would recommend to have a look on the job categories, because it has different filters. You can, filter through location, title, field, and everything. So with different countries. I would recommend not only just, search in the vacancies website, but also different alternative website. For example, Decent Jobs Youth website. It is not the vacancy website. It is initiative of the ILO, and bringing together different resources for the issue of the youth employment. But you can subscribe to their newsletters, and gives you lots of tools and resources and initiatives, competitions, quite good information that you can begin with. You can write to them and engage with them, so you can find different kinds of opportunities up there, not only just vacancies. So I would recommend this definitely. And then we continuing the local ones, the IEM, I would recommend not only just look up the careers. Currently we have a vacancy, by the way, in the field engineer assistant. Deadline is 5th of March. Sometimes this is quite specific vacancies, and digitization will be Mingashevi and the other project areas. So it's quite open. And I would recommend to have a look at the projects. What kind of projects does that agency is doing currently, what they're up to, what kind of potential candidate they would like to see. So it's quite important. So you can have a rough view of what they are doing on a daily basis. The next agency will be OHCHR, Human Rights Office. And we have Resource Center, and it is free. You can call them and have your trainings there. They are providing training room. They are providing free services, free legal aid. I am telling this to people in Azerbaijan, but you can also have cooperate with them in international base as well. But most of the people do not know that they are giving freely all of the resources, and they can have collaboration with the different universities. In the UNDP system is also different recruitment system, but more or less the procedure is same. And currently we have also one vacancy. We're looking for the international expert. So it is international. You can apply from different countries. If you have graduated in education management, and you have expertise for the development of digital learning resources, you can easily apply. So you have time for the deadline. And also from this website, I would recommend to go to the AZAWeb and jobsearch.az, because they're also, cross-sharing these vacancies there. And most of the development works vacancies are also shared in these platforms too. So the next agency is UNFPA, but they have their own page here. You can look for gender issues, many types of research, data, this kind of areas, ensuring human rights, mostly like family issues. This kind of are the things of their area of family issues. So if you're interested in this section or in this areas, you can easily find a job there. And also they have lots of consultancy services. I mean, most of the people are working with them, providing services from different countries. I know Azerbaijani people who are living abroad, some of them are the students, most of them are graduates and experts who are providing consultancy services. Of course, they're getting paid and working for Azerbaijan. So it's also possible for you if you are working or studying in another country. Then we have the UNHCR. Why I just screenshot the website, because they also have different kinds of competitions, different kinds of campaigns throughout the year. You can easily get collaborated with them. It is not like very official working, but we have different kinds of, public events that you can be a part of them. You can get to know them, and you can have some network with them. So it's also possible. And UNICEF is mainly providing in different areas, in 3 different areas, like tenders and internship. It's more or less the same. Currently, we don't have any internship with the UNICEF. I remember we had, but currently it is closed. But they are looking for, I think, international experts for the projects in education. And also, if you're interested in the, children generally and their rights and education field, you can apply for the UNICEF. So you have to very much filter what you're up to, what you're passionate about. And this is the website. If you can jot down this one, take a note, UnitedNationsAzerbaijan.org. This is the collected, if you just go back, this is the collected website, which brings all of the vacancies from different agencies in one platform. So you can see that we have a job from UNDP, FAO, and other agencies. For example, personal assistant to head office. It is open vacancy now, and you can apply if you have experience, surely. And you can find this vacancy in the website of FAO as well. I mean, to have a shortcut way, go straight to the website and filter it and have all of the vacancies available in the country, in Azerbaijan. The next one, and I want to share one other source with you. It is UN jobs, but it does not mean United Nations jobs. It is mostly used for UN jobs. It's collected platform for giving different vacancies from different development work agencies. It does not only entail the UN, but also different, for example, cultivating new frontiers in agriculture. Different organizations are available here. I've just spotted 2 days ago, 4 vacancies that you can apply. So all of the vacancies, you can see the internship opportunity, consultancy services, and also staff categories. I mean, all of them are available here, and you can see how many vacancies is where. So it's one-stop source development work. So if you have so far any question, because I don't see you, today is not a good day for technical issues, I would say. But I can't see. If you have any questions or if it is too complicated, please just give a sign. And in the meantime, so far, if something is, you don't understand, everything is clear, thank you. So that's a good sign. So if you're okay, we're moving to the section, real applying. So we know ourselves. We know, we didn't apply yet. So the first point is to have a research. So we did the research. We already know different agencies globally and locally. We know ourselves. So what the things we are passionate about, what things we would like to go on with, and everything. So it is settled. Now we find a vacancy and we want to apply. Where to begin? The cover letters. Cover letters is really important. It's like a trailer of the film. If you would like to, continue with the film, you'll just watch the trailer. So it's super important. But depending on the platform, recruitment platform, cover letters can be at the beginning of the application or sometimes at the very end. So it depends on the recruitment system. But the more the less, the idea is the same. It has to be very interesting. It has to get attention of the hiring manager. So it is beginning and ending session of a real cover letter, one of the applications. So it was a job in communication sector, and it is one of the luckiest, the successful ones. And if we don't have a specific experience, I'll get the questions as well in the meantime. If we don't have a specific experience, can we apply for internships? So you have to firstly explain to me that what kind of specific experience you mean. Even if you have some kind of experience, it's okay. It depends on the agency. So you have to clear out what do you mean by meaning specific. If you have a little bit experience, it would work. So the cover letters, ending and beginning section. It was a job in the communication sector, so it was okay to play around with words and making puns and jokes, you know. But if you're applying some procurement job or finance, would be better be sharp with numbers and, you know, be precise, not much like playing around words. Next one. So personal profile history. It means your CV, sometimes not. Many people are asking about the, you know, how I can improve my CV, etc. But in most of the recruitment systems, you are not required to upload your CV. Some of them yes, some of them no, because most of the times people are lying in their CVs. You know, even in their LinkedIns, there are lots of they're making up, they're tweaking. Because I personally know a person, I worked with him, I has been working with him, and I was reviewing his LinkedIn profile. And we've been a co-worker like 10 years ago, and I know what the job he was doing there. But I was reading the LinkedIn profile, it was totally different. So the world is very small. Please never lie about yourself. You can, no, I didn't finish that section. So the PHP is like personal profile history. It has a specific system, each of the agencies. You're not uploading your CV, but they are giving you questions and you are providing information according to your work experiences, like training, licenses, references, everything. So never lie about them. The next one, and be honest with yourself and others. So like I have a flows, you can be honest, but with yourself. This kind of honesty is not needed in your CV. Just be honest with yourself. The next one, yes, the main important one, I would say the duties and achievements. It is required on all of the agencies' recruitment systems, but what I can say that most of the people usually ignores these words because there is a specific section in the job application that please note your duties and achievements of the work experiences that you have been so far. But people begin to use these words interchangeably, like as if they are synonyms. They're not synonyms, and we have to be very attentive on that section. Duties is something that they are already there, okay? It is the responsibilities of the work. You do not make any difference with the duties. If you are just working for the communications, you have to draft press releases. You have to do some marketing things. You have to do with partnerships and effective networks. So it is the duties. You are not making any difference in the duties sections, but you have to give us information about duties sections so we can know that what is your work type. But in the achievement sections, we want to see the numbers, the facts, the percentage. So if you look at the two examples, one of them is the duties, prepared press materials to promote awareness about the projects, developed costing and budgeting documents, and build effective networks. So it is kind of a things that we're creating a notion that what kind of work we had, but in the achievement sections, you have to be like very specific. For example, formulated 20 and 10 ideas. So I know the number, achieved 30% account increase. So you are providing achievements in the numbers and increase accountability, provided 25% increase in technical base or 70% decrease on expenses. So be specific, give the numbers and show your difference. So I would say. Next one. So how to interviews, how to get prepared. Sometimes it's very hard. You don't know where to begin. But if you know the tricks, it will be easy. Next one. What I can say about interviews, it's all about competences. There's been questions about the competency-based interviews. So it is there. It is all about the competences. I also worked in the games industry, but we have different kinds of interviews. We have case scenario interviews. It's also kind of competence-based. In interviews, you're going to have a board of panel composed of 4 or 5 people, and asking you questions, very specific questions in the competences that you've mentioned in your CV. So please never lie about your competences in the CV, because there are going to be questions in the interview. But they are giving you like real case scenario. Like, please, as an example, they can say that, please share your experiences, very recent experience with the civil society organizations where you provided or helped with some marketing tools and helped with the promotion of grassroots initiatives, like very, very much specific. And in some of the interviews, they can even give you some technical details like the weather, temperature, the material you're using, the environment, everything. You have to be very, ready to case scenarios. You have to give the story to them. And even we can do now. So another one, so for the interviews, you have to describe the situation, give the action you've just did, and the result. And let me just see you. I think I can't see you. Yes, visible. If we have time, we can mock some interviews as well. I don't know, it's a bit late, or Rahel can mention.
I think it's a good idea if participants don't mind.
So if you want, we can try. So we can pick anyone who just applied to some work. You can say also what kind of work you want to apply, and we can, together with all of you, mock interview now. So we are in the interview panel and giving questions. So, but I need some 2 or 3 volunteers just who are planning to apply to some kind of work. So what works are you planning to apply for? Anything, finance, communications, procurement. What is your idea? What is the intention? What areas are you trying to apply in the UN? I think no one is applying nowhere.
In my case, it's law field.
So law field.
Yeah.
So do you have anything in mind as a specific one? Because law is very, very big. As mentioned before, it is you can apply to OHCHR in Azerbaijan, okay? You are currently in Azerbaijan and applying to the Human Rights Agency. Yes, we mark that one. We have a project helping people for the legal aid, specifically vulnerable groups from different communities, divorced women, some impoverished groups and others. So you apply as a consultant to work in Azerbaijan for this specific project. Would be okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Definitely.
So let's imagine that you've applied, and so I can give you any questions. I would like you to share with me your very recent experience with some sensitive groups where you had a crisis, very conflicted issue, and you've just solved it, and how you solved it. Was it difficult? What was the challenges? So you have 2 minutes to get prepared, and other people can also, make it up. And if anyone has an answer to that, how to help Rahel to answer to these questions. Is my question clear?
Yep.
Okay.
So help me.
So you are a lawyer. People from the international development, very fancy names, coming from legal departments. I saw some students here who've been working or studying in international development, some legal studies, law. So you can help out, Rahel. So you're applying, working for the Human Rights Agency in Azerbaijan for a specific project. You're going to give consultancies on legal aid to a very vulnerable groups. So as a panel member who are interviewing you, I would like to share your recent experience on having issue while you're providing legal aid to a divorced woman or someone, I'm just making it up already, someone and how you just overcome the challenge. What was it difficult? What was the emotional side? So you give me about all of this.
I think I have some problems with my imagination now, but generally, actually, I've worked in human rights field in Azerbaijan. I mean, but I'm not sure that I can tell something now. But I think just not to have too much time, like we don't have actually too much time left. So it will be better just for you go on with your thing that you already told. It will be better actually for us to understand what can be exactly the information that we can provide during the interview.
Okay, thank you very much, but your response is invalid. So you are successfully failed at the interview. If anyone has any comment, how they would make up, because agility is really super important in UN. You have to just make up the things because it is the organization working with the crisis, and you have to be very creative with the solutions and very agile and quick. Even if you are not a lawyer, you can be, I don't know, some procurement person, or if you're just a clerk or administrative person, you can mock up yourself as a lawyer, you know, while rehearsing yourself and tell the stories. If has anyone any comment, they can raise hand or share. If not, I'll just move forward. Okay. So the next idea is about network, sometimes stalking. So please don't get me wrong. It is in a positive way, stalking, because according to the UN guidelines, ethics and everything, stalking, of course, is something very dangerous word. So I would recommend review the agency's publications, what they're doing, not only the vacancies website, okay? Subscribe to their newsletters because you'll see what they're really doing, what kind of projects. You can go knock their door and provide your services and say that, hey, I am good at this. It is really possible. Check the social media accounts. All of them have their own social media accounts in YouTube, Twitter, you know, every Facebook and websites. Ask questions via social media, email, or direct calls, and attend public events and receptions because some of them have very public you know, gatherings and initiatives that you can be part of this, like beach cleaning sessions, you know, climate change things and everything. And you can learn and have a mentor from the UN who's currently working there to get to know their culture from their stuff. And join public webinars like this. You can get connected to the UN, you know, stuff and share your interests. You have to be active and proactive, so to get connected. And you have to have ability to, you know, sometimes fake it until you make it. So it's working. And you can put Google Alerts on your computer for your dream job keywords. So whenever some of the agencies globally or locally providing any vacancies, you can get informed. The next one. So this is, yeah, you have no idea how high I can fly. It depends on a person. So they contact the agencies. It is our local agencies. As I've mentioned before, we have 9 resident agencies in the country. As you can see, I've just put their physical addresses, you know, the physical offices, their numbers, their email addresses, their social media accounts, everything is there. You can get connected to them and ask them to provide you information about the vacancies, internships, tenders, everything. You can say, I'm a student, I would like to be a part of FAO. You can say that I would like to work for IAM. So, you know, the opportunities are already there. You just have to click on them. The next one is social media groups. So not only the official website, but the social media groups. There are lots of, it's only just Facebook. There are lots of Facebook groups who are providing UN vacancies, and you can have the keywords and the hashtags, and you can just search by hashtags in the social media groups and the Facebook, of course. And frequently ask questions, just one by one, please, not all of them. Not all of them, not all of them. Okay, the first one, I honestly receive lots of questions, honestly. And it's been like 3 years and I just picked some of them. Just I remember what an application, what the heck? And they're directly writing to me, but pardon, I'm not an HR person. I'm not working for the Human Resources Department. I'm just interested in sharing vacancies because I am absolute outlier, absolute external person, like outsider to the UN, because I've applied to one vacancy and there has been like around 500 applications to my job positions, around 472, and only one person got selected, and it was me. So it was quite competitive. And yes, and most of the people are, handing over the references, and they don't want to spend time on the application because it's too long. I cannot spend time on that as if I have all the time in the world. But there is one thing I have to highlight. If you cannot spend much time on the long applications, you cannot continue with the UN, honestly, because the tasks are really long. It will take your time, energy, but if you are not just that passionate to finish up your application, it's not going to work. So the UN is not like, it's not the place for you. The second one, all selected candidates have internal references. If not, then why on earth I'm not getting selected? You better have someone in there. So the person has already, got the mystery solution that if you have internal references, you're going to get selected. It is also some progress, If you know that it is working with the UN, so why you yourself not getting any internal references? So if the internal references is really working for you to get your door, like to get your feet in the door, so have someone in there, get to know them, have your internal references, have people get to know them, join the events. So have someone in there, get to know them. Other one. So I've applied for numerous vacancies. I met all the requirements. I haven't received a single refusal email. So the first sentence is already tricky because they can see that from the system that this person is already applying over 3 or 4 vacancies. It is okay, but you have to be very, you have to very customize your applications, because if they see that this is copy pasting, it will be seen like you're just applying to be on the UN, not like you are eager for the position. So it can be understood in a wrong way. And all of the systems are automized, and you have to really, really met this requirement that mentioned in the application, in the job requirements. And if it is automized system, they're only picking by the keywords. It is not manual, and the system automatically shortlist the candidates and provide you a long list and the short list, and they're having the interviews. So it is super, super, you have to be attentive with the requirements. Sometimes people are ignoring them. Sometimes in the requirements, they're saying that you have to be very proficient with Excel, and they don't put the Excel word there because they say that I already know Excel, know what I will need it, and then it automatically disqualify you. So it's super important. So I don't have another one, work experience, don't know the language either, but I think they give good salary. How can I get my foot in the door? But you can, there is also opportunity. If you don't know that any language, you don't have any work experience in some of the fields of the UN. For example, drivers, some of them know the language. I think most of them know, but they are not like advanced level, they're intermediary level, they know. And they don't have a work experience in like, in consulting, education or some degree, but they are professional in their own thing, what they're doing. So there is kind of service section that you can also apply for a job. The next one, I think there is also one, yes, if I know this much as required, what am I doing here? How can I go abroad? So it is a bit tricky questions because it depends on you. You can easily work for the UN in Azerbaijan and also abroad in different countries, not depending on where you are currently, not depending on your and what kind of walks of life you've been through. So you can fly and go. It is your personal decision. But if it is required in the job applications, it means that they are giving good salary. It means that they are really trying to meet and looking for this expert. So they are putting this much requirements. So I think it's the last one. So that's the last one when you got hired. Of course, it's a joke, but you just missed it. So thanks for your attention and keep moving. So currently, oh, finally, I can see you now. So
I think it's time to have a short Q&A session. If I see that there are too many questions already.
Okay, let's begin.
So yeah, let's start with Narmin Valieva. You are very welcome to ask your question.
Hello.
Aishan, do you have? I've seen here like your hand rising. That's
No,
why.
I was just clapping.
Ruhia Khanum, you're welcome to ask.
Hi, Lila. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you, everybody, here in the webinar, in the first event of the new board. A very successful event, by the way. I want to appreciate your presentation, and I really enjoyed how you showed the perspectives of job seekers, and I had the same assumptions because you know, if you look at my CV, I'm experienced lawyer, human rights lawyer, experienced consultant in advising governments, organizations on the human rights. I applied to, during my whole career, I applied to too many vacancies in UN, but I was never invited to any interview. The UN office in Azerbaijan. I had the same opinion which you mentioned because that was really strange, because whenever I applied in Azerbaijan for any other positions, if I applied for 10 positions, at least 5 of them returned back. Even recently, I have applied to one position and there was one question which needed clarification. I have sent email to office email, and I've sent 3 emails, and I didn't receive up to date any response to that. And that's really strange. And I wish the UN system work as you explained, but unfortunately, I have a very bad experience, and I am talking about experience of my last 20 years.
Last 20 years, right?
Yes. I never received back for any of my applications, but I can tell you that I have experience working with World Bank, with IFC, with UNDP project, but from the European Union side. Like, I was hired as an expert of the European Union, but I have very unsuccessful experience with UN office in Baku. But I heard that there are some changes during last years. And I recently applied to several positions, but so far, no response yet. What do you think? What is the reason? Are they occupied too much to respond to emails, even office emails? Like, is there no any requirement in UN system to respond, at least to say, sorry, we decided to proceed with another candidate, like in Sweden, we receive a lot. Currently, I'm based in Sweden, in Lund. So here we also have another problem with job finding. That is another story. Thank you. So I would appreciate to know what is the policy of UN, like in respect of responding to emails and job applications.
Okay, thank you, Ruhia, for the questions. And I'm sorry to hearing that the very disappointing experience with the UN agencies. But to cut it short, I can say that there is no policy responding back, honestly. What I've seen, of course, as I am not an expert in HR, but what I have seen, what I've experienced is what I am just, researching around. If you are not going through the first stage, they are not replying you back. I've never heard of people who are just saying that, sorry, we are regretting that to say that you are, did not get selected. You never receive such an email because it is the automated system, and they only automatically sending emails to some of them who are just shortlisted and got to that next stage. That is a reason that I'm receiving too many questions about people who are just replied and writing to me if I can say them if they have just got selected to the second stage. I mean, my work is totally different, but I'm trying to get back to them. The policy is that the UN is only going back to the shortlisted candidates, it's for sure. But what you can do, I don't know specifically which agency you've have this experience, but you can directly call them and ask them that you are expert in this field and you want to know about the procedures of the job application, and you don't want to waste time by waiting, because some of the times people are receiving 2 or many offers and they are on the break of the deciding. So you can call them, find a one person focal point, directly call them, ask your questions, because it's your total right to get information, even if you're not selected. And they are expected to give details to you. And I'm in favor of the calling. If I have the experience with the UK and other countries, I usually call. I don't write email. Sometimes emailing, but directly calling them and asking what's going on. So I think I would recommend just going ahead with your communications and moving a bit more forward and getting to know them. And the public networks is really working. I can't say that the references are working. They are working only if they know you in person, because they require not everyone. If I know you even, I can't give you a reference because I haven't worked with you in person. So it's super important if you're giving as reference. I hope it's kind of helping.
Thank you, Leila, for this answer. Telman, do you have any question?
Yes, first of all, Ms. Gurbanova, thank you very much for the informational presentation. It was really helpful. My question is about, you said that the recruiters can actually see to how many internship positions I have applied. But is it also true in this careers.un.org website? Like, I can see that I have so many applications, but do the recruiters also see that I have applied to them? And can they log into my applications and see how is my cover letter, like almost copy pastes from other applications?
Well, it depends on thank you for the question, first of all. It depends on the recruitment system, as I've mentioned before. For example, FAO, you're logging in Taleo system. And if you're just applying to the 3 different vacancies in the same system, I assume that the HR person can see them, because it depends on the job positions as well, because we have staff categories and non-staff categories. So there are different kinds of modalities. We have SCs, P1, P3, G6, lots of different grades. And if that HR person have access to certain positions or staff categories, she or he can see everything, like the different, but if it is within the same agency, what I'm saying, I can't see as an HR person what you're applying to the FAO. Maybe HR person can see what's going on within the UNDP, not like all of them together. But copy pasting is not working really. It's gonna burn out you. So please try to paraphrase and use some free language dictionaries to paraphrase and not copy pasting, because it is really going out and we can see that it's just copy paste and it can destroy your first impression. That's the thing. But it is okay. It is your total right to apply for 2 or many positions, but it has to be not too much in conflict. Okay, as an HR person, I can see that you're applying in agriculture, but also you're doing procurement and also communications. You are very talented and multi-potential person. Sometimes it is not. And the second one, you're just, applying. So you have to be very specific. So I hope that it answered the question.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have a just short follow-up question, if I may. This internship applications, is it centralized one, or if I'm, for example, applying for the UN Habitat, am I being assessed by their own agency, or is it UN in general for internship applications?
So, well, it's a bit different. The internship opportunity just I've shared with you for the UN Department of Global Communications, just as an example. You are going to apply to the INSPIRA system.
Yeah.
And they have their own requirements, different personal profile history. You're, replying to the work experiences, you're sharing your details, everything that I've explained so far. So they're going to review, and you longlisted, then shortlisted, then interview. So you can apply to there directly. And each internship has its own different requirements. The UNDP internship is different, depending on the position and the project, because we are looking, for example, 2 interns. I was remembering, like in education related projects, so the requirements were totally different. But more or less, there are some rules that for the UNDP that you have to be graduate or last year of your studies. I think it can apply to the other agencies as well. So mainly you have to be related with the studies. And because some of them are already giving salary, for the internship, some of them are free, some of them not. So if they're giving you allowances, if the money is involved, to be honest, so they're going to be too competitive and much more selective. And so copy pasting is not going to work. So
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We just have one more thing here. Can you please share the presentation through the emails? Yeah, I will send all the presentations. I mean, we have just one, so the presentation to you. Yeah, to you. And actually, you can see the slide again. I mean, not the slide, just generally the speech of our panelists through our Facebook page. And yeah, I think that's it. Thank you, Leila, for your such an amazing information, like informative character about the United Nations. So I think it was a great opportunity for Azerbaijani students to be informed about the procedure in Azerbaijan. I mean, United Nations, how it works in Azerbaijan, and get more information in their future career plans. Thank you all for participating.
Yeah, I also thank you everyone for you as well for the initiative and also for the invitation, and I wish good luck to everyone. I hope that it will make some use. The UN is really big and sometimes complicated and overwhelming, could be, but it will be really easy if you know yourself and if you know the tools how to have a search and get to know the people. So it's really working if you want to. Good luck to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.